morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, September 22nd. Wall Street is losing some steam this morning after flying high on the Fed's latest move last week. Friday capped off another record-setting session with all three major indices closing in the green. The Dow hit a fresh record, gaining 175 points or 0.37% to finish at 46,315 points. The S&P 500 also closed at an all-time high, up 32 points or nearly 0.5%, and the NASDAQ jumped 160 points or about 0.75%. But let's get into Monday and a new week with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. I mean, the S&Ps are lower. We're down 0.29%, which is about 0.3%. It's not a quality day. That's what I'm seeing ahead. Over the weekend, President Trump announced his new policy imposing a $100K fee on H-1B visa applications. Yeah, that's not positive for the tech stocks, and that's going to cause some weakness in the tech sector. But Trump is expected to give a speech at the UN tomorrow. I mean, he'll probably talk about, Israel and Gaza. He'll probably talk about isolationism in the U.S., which is essentially the new policy. But we got a lot of corporate news going on. I mean, Pfizer is said to be close to a deal to buy obesity drugmaker Metsa. Real estate firm COMP. They're going to be acquiring Anywhere Real Estate. Let's talk about Kenvue. The FDA is expected to release a report later today that's linking autism to Tylenol. It's not a scientific, it's a quasi-scientific report. It's written by scientists, but it's probably doesn't have real science behind it. The markets will be paying attention to a lot of the Fed speak that's going on today. But John Williams in the New York Fed, who was supposed to speak this morning, he just pulled out of a speech. So something's going on there. On the earnings front this week, we got Micron, we got Costco, AstraZeneca, ACN, all expected to release earnings this week, which is positive. Taking a look over in Europe, seeing what we see in European markets, we get the DAX is down 0.58%. 136 points. There's weakness in travel-related stocks because there was a wave of cyber attacks which disrupted the check-in systems at major European airports over the weekend. Now, in London, the FTSE is actually higher by 0.14%. We're seeing some selected gains in energy and industrial sectors. The CAC in Paris down, 0.13%. Luxury stocks are moving a little lower. Turn your attention over to Asia, and the Nikkei jumped to 447 points. That's 0.99%. Tech stock did outperform. Then there's Hong Kong, which fell 200 points, or 0.76%. Now, there's weakness there. The weakness there, I don't think it was really related to any one thing, like the inflation data that came out. I think it really has to do more with this major storm that's about to hit Hong Kong. It's placed in Hong Kong on high alert because this super typhoon is expected to hit landfall tomorrow, and that's prompting extensive preparation and ahead of this severe storm that's hitting the island. It was off, but I'm not too worried about it. Then in China, you look at the Shanghai Composite, it was up 0.22%. Continued optimism over the trade talks with President Trump. They're expected, President Trump and President Xi are expected to meet in 6 weeks in South Korea at that APEC summit. That could be something. Then we're looking at oil. I mean, oil is trading lower, down about 0.5%. You got WTI at $62.39. You got Brent at $66.20. I mean, over the weekend, Russia launched a bunch of airstrikes onto Western Ukraine near the border of Poland. And they also violated the airspace of Estonia. I mean, but the upside still remains limited because you're in a situation of rising production and a weakening demand, and so while Russia does these probes, it's not enough to cause oil to spike. But we'll wait and see. Keep an eye on oil. There could be some movements in the near future, and that's what I have for in terms of morning market update report, Emily.
Well, we can hear that from your opening host of information to be watching, keeping track of it this week. Investors do turn their focus to some fresh economic data. And as you mentioned, there's going to be a packed earnings calendar, and we're going to see if we can continue that rally from last week into this week, even though we're losing some steam this morning. We will dive into the details throughout the show to start the week off right, getting to earnings action, economic events, and of course, these other market moving headlines. Let's start with earnings action, Bill. Give us a rundown of what's going on there.
Well, nothing's really happening today. Today's kind of a light day. It was a light period for earnings overall. It doesn't really start to pick up until next month. But we do have AutoZone coming out tomorrow. That ticker AZO. Their EPS is $51.10, and the expected move is 6.18%. Then you have Miller Knoll, which is also releasing tomorrow morning. That's ticker MLKN, Michael, Larry, Kilo, Nancy. Their EPS is 35 cents, and the expected move there is 13.73% when they release. And then after the bell on tomorrow, you got Micron. So, a little light right now, but it's about to start heating up, Emily.
We'll be watching those earnings and as they pick up throughout the week, and as you mentioned, through next month. One area where there's plenty of action is Fed speak. Obviously, we're still looking for clues on what's going to be happening next for the end of the calendar year with the Fed and what will be happening with monetary policy. So, Bill, let's get to economic events. What is going on there?
There's no real big event, economic reports that are due out. But, for the week, we do have a number of key economic data releases, such as the GDP estimates, consumer spending, inflation figures, along with, a host of earnings reports. So, we got a lot going on. The CPI, that's going to be released. The PCE, that's also coming out. I believe that's on Wednesday and Friday, those two reports. So those are the key ones for the week. But today, no big reports coming up. But in terms of Fed speak, today's very heavy because, at 9:45, John Williams of the New York Fed is supposed to speak, but he just pulled out of this event. So that at 10 o'clock, we're going to be hearing from St. Louis Fed Bank President Alberto Massam. And then at noon, we're going to hear from Cleveland Fed Bank President Beth Hammack, as well as Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Barkin, when they're both speaking. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update, Emily.
And Bill, following that Fed speak is a way to sort of dig for clues on what the Fed might be doing next. And when it comes to digging for clues on market moves, what is the market doing next? You're not just following earnings action and economic events, but you follow a whole host of other news, data, and information. Every morning you use your NewsWare to break it down into different types of alerts to gather things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else to see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 8 higher, 22 lower. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. They're mixed. We're seeing some gains in Apple and Tesla, but everything else is trading lower. Um, Amazon, they're facing some, legal issues because of some tactics that they use to keep customers. Essentially, they make it really difficult for you to cancel a Prime account. They make you go through a couple of hoops. You're not supposed to do that, and that's going to cause some litigation against Amazon in the near future. Meta platforms, they have that Llama AI tool, and U.S. government agencies are now going to be permitted to use the Llama tool. They're already allowed to use other ones, but Meta was off the list, but now they just got put on, so that's positive. To Netflix, AB InBev, this is the beer manufacturer. They just announced a deal with Netflix. I mean, it's a global brand partnership. I got to read more into that. That's interesting to me. And Tesla apparently has been approved to begin testing of autonomous vehicles in Arizona. TSLA, interesting. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, you really got to talk about, Microsoft and Apple, because, companies are urging workers to come back to the U.S. due to this H-1B visa fee. 100K, they don't want to pay that. Get back in the States. We don't want to pay that fee. In terms of merger news, PFE, Paul Frank Edward, Pfizer to buy weight loss drug developer Metsera for up to $7.3 billion. Compass, COMP, they're going to be acquiring Rival Anywhere Real Estate in an all-stock deal. ODP, ticker ODP, ODP Corporation agrees to a $1 billion acquisition by Atlas Holdings for about $28 a share. And that's all I'm seeing really this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to kick off this week?
I'm going to go with AutoZone, ticker AZO, Apple Zebra Oscar. Doesn't hit all my data points, but it's best of breed this morning. Now, the earnings are tomorrow morning. The EPS is $51.10. The expected move is 6.18%. Okay, and Friday, the call volume was 724 contracts versus 717 contracts. The open interest is, 3,000 contracts to 2,700. Okay, it's a really expensive stock, so I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of volume. But major brokers do like it. They are positive on the stock. And I got to tell you, this morning, I think we're going to see some weakness. And I think I'll be able to get the stock, around $4,000, $4,050, $4,000 to $4,050, somewhere in that range. And I think, these earnings are positive, it's just going to run up into earnings. So yeah, that's so there could be a good gain this afternoon. So I'm looking for a little weakness this morning with the opportunity to grab 1%, before the earnings come out, but and they're due out tomorrow morning. But that's my pick of the day: AZO, Apple, Zebra, Oscar, AutoZone.
Returning to an earnings play with AutoZone today. We will follow it along with you. And coming up, we'll do a quick recap on Friday's pick of the day before we sign off. So stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
NVIDIA stock falls because the Trump-China talks are key to a revival for the chip manufacturer as a headline. You got a couple changes to the S&P 500 happening today. Robinhood and AppLovin and EME, they're all being added to the S&P 500 today. There's an activist pushing for a sale of Clear Channel CCO, Charlie Oscar. Irene, ticker IREN, they double AI Cloud to 23K GPUs. That's one to watch, IREN. Oracle TikTok application to be secured by Oracle and Trump-backed deal. Target, TGT, Tom Gray's Tom, they announced Circle Week event, sales event starting October 5th. It's going to run from the 5th to the 11th. Google's got that antitrust trial that starts today. Microsoft said on Friday they're going to be raising the prices of their Xbox gaming consoles. I don't think that matters. It's a small piece of their revenue. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into another week of trading, let's take a quick look back on Friday and your pick of the day, which was Boeing. Now, there was that talk of the 250 jet order from Turkey. You were looking specifically at that call volume and thought there may be some interesting gains there, looking at the 215 area as an entry point. So, Bill, how did your call work out?
I mean, it was a flat trade. I mean, look. Boeing on Friday opened up at $217.73, and I was like, I'm not paying that much. I mean, not today. Now, and I did suggest an entry price of $215, and the stock did open up 217.73, fell down to 213.62, closed out at 215.65. So it wasn't a miss; it was a flat trade, and I mean, we really were expecting an announcement of a big plane order from China for Boeing, because we had a Trump phone call with President Xi on Friday, which never materialized. Without that, the catalyst didn't happen, and so it just it didn't follow through. Now, had that hit, we could have seen a double-digit price movement in the stock, but it didn't hit. So we're back to the drawing board. It's a flat trade. The announcement never came, but that's okay. We live to trade another day, Emily.
We do live to trade another day. One to continue to watch, I think, there with Boeing. And we will also watch AutoZone and check in with you tomorrow about that pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.